Usually too late. Our education is failing. The distribution of values is failing. The power to make a decent living by effort and ethics, this is failing. And the individual finds himself in a world which is not worth living in as far as values are concerned. He finds himself in a very difficult and miserable condition. When we take this person to a psychiatrist and get him under psychiatric care, it is necessary, if possible, to gradually work him through a whole mass of complexes and a great number of fixations of his own mind, including delusions, work him through again to a sense of normalcy. In some mysterious way, the Aegean stable has to be cleansed. We have to give the mind, the brain itself, a house cleaning to get rid of the false opinions, the desperate attitudes, the disillusioned convictions of most people today. So the psychiatrist settles down to an extensive procedure, which may or may not be successful, but will certainly be expensive. Instead of that, what is happening? We are opening, by means of narcotics, this whole background of psychological mayhem within the individual by a reduction of conscious control of attitudes. Under the influence of drugs, the door opens, and every misery, every adversity, every pressure, every frustration comes out with a torrent of pressures behind it. And these pressures coming out without anything to control them lead to excesses from which very few young people can survive. Now, the problem of the entire process is what happens. What happens in connection with, for instance, cocaine? How does it affect? The best way we can approach it at the moment is to recognize that this effect is largely the result of magnetic fields and their interplays. If we had the instruments by which we could make the necessary adjustments, and maybe we will have some of them, we will discover that narcotics, and like all other plant or mineral products, are alive. They have vibratory rates. They have their own magnetic fields. They are not simply what you can see and taste. Behind everything that we know is a vibratory rate. And this vibratory rate is the problem with which we are most concerned. We know also that in the human body there are various polarities over which nature has been able to, or through which nature has been able to control the conduct. The human mind and the emotional focuses are locked behind a pattern of laws and are filtered through the mind as a result of experience, morality, ethics, conviction, education, opportunity, racial and national traditions. The mind is a guardian of the subconscious. The mind helps the individual to prevent the pressures from within from going out and destroying him, or the pressures on the outside getting in and destroying him. The mind is a kind of coordinating filter by means of which everything is reduced to usable levels of process. Excesses of one kind or another do not occur unless there is an abuse or misuse of energy. Now, the center of most of our problem in this particular case will probably be the endocrine system. We will define probably that the pineal gland is the center by which moderation and coordination is possible in the physical body. It is a controlling factor, not only physically but metaphysically. The pineal gland is a structure by means of which the magnetic fields of the whole body are regulated. Every organ has an integration in itself. The stomach is an entity. The ancients realized this. We don't. We know, however, that if we treat the stomach badly enough, it is going to come back at us. It is not going to accept abuse without resistance. If, however, we pay no attention to a reasonable request for reformation, then the various organs and glands and so forth settle down to suffer, deteriorate, and finally lose control of the functions which they are supposed to regulate. It seems very likely at the present time that the individual using certain narcotic drugs is breaking down the protective structure between the inside and the outside of himself. He is passing gradually from a real and existing thing into a kind of dream world, mostly nightmares. He finds himself in a vista or a rate of vibration which normally he is protected against. It is this same rate around which nearly all the traditions of magic were built. It is this mysterious rate of energy that is the controlling factor in determining right and wrong in conduct. It is also a door leading into the invisible realms, which are populated also by rates of energy, rates of vibration, which are received into the human consciousness very often as beings or entities. Here we have, therefore, a person who is not able to adjust in this world, suddenly being confronted with a series of phantoms which are phantasms of his own brain miscalculations. The door leading into the subconscious being opened, a mass of miseries come out. One simple example I remember that came into my particular observation was a young man who had a very interesting but tragic life. He belonged to a minority racial group, and from birth and childhood had felt the oppression of the popular opinion against the people with whom he was related. He was hurt, damaged, antagonized, frustrated, and finally became actively rebellious. With the power of economic need and with the profession for which he had been educated, he was able to keep this particular problem rather under control. He worked out some of it through dream symbolism, he worked out some of it through psychological counseling, and he worked out some more of it by being busy doing things that took his energies and gave him a certain sense of fulfillment. Somewhere along the line, this individual suddenly developed an addiction to alcohol, which is, of course, not by any means as excessive usually as some other addictions. But within 3 months, this man was destroyed. The moment he lost the control of his own conscious mind, every misery, every persecution, every bit of misfortune that went back for generations in his family surged out, and he actually committed crime. He would never have committed crime had the pressure within himself not been so intense and the defenses against it had been gradually removed by alcohol. Therefore, any individual who is not happy in a normal state will be more unhappy under the addiction of any form of stimulant which breaks down the defenses of the conscious character of the person.